Yo, so the Detroit Pistons, they just dropped this last game, and they got the brakes blown off them. Memphis presents a challenge to anyone because of their chemistry, because of their team identity, their buy-in, their connectiveness. They know who their guys are, what their roles are, and so they present a challenge even with Ja Morant out, even with Zach Edey out, even when Desmond Bain was out, even when Vince Williams is out, right? Even when there's trades and they lose Zaire Williams, who looks great in Brooklyn, right? Like this team is so embedded in who they are because they've had such buy-in for years, right? Despite losing David Roddy, right, to the Hawks, right? This team, everybody knows their role. Santi Aldama, Desmond Bain, Scottie Pippen Jr., who's been a revelation for them, who looks like the next Tyus Jones, except maybe a little bit better scoring. Jaren Jackson Jr. still anchors the defense. They just have a team that everyone knows what they're doing and they're bought in and they execute well. So for a young team like the Detroit Pistons, it's going to be a challenge because how they're going to move the ball, how they're going to defend, how they're going to hold on to the rope and make it through tough moments when the other team is challenging. It's going to be different for a team that's still figuring themselves out. And that's where the Detroit Pistons are. Despite their record, despite looking like a play-in team at times, despite the breakout happening with Jaden Ivey, right, and the progression that you're seeing from Stewart and Duran and the rest, this team is still in its progressive stages. This is still a team that is developing not just the identity, not just a culture, but they are developing in terms of understanding who they are and what their capacity and potential is, which means that you can't skip steps. You can't skip steps. And I know some of y'all are excited. They want to push for the play-in. Stop. If you make the play-in, that's a bonus. That's an extra. Don't skip steps. And I want to talk about the next three steps that I think the Detroit Pistons need to focus on in this next leg of the season, in this next 20 games, the next quarter of this season. But before I do, this video is brought to you by Bridges and Stones Family and Relationship Care. The holidays can be tough for a lot of us, whether it's distance from family, relationship issues, social isolation, or struggling to adapt to the weather of this season. Depression and loneliness can come for us all. This season doesn't have to be something to dread. It can also be your opportunity to learn coping skills and the steps you need to move into healthier relationships. Contact Bridges and Stones today for a free consultation with a professional coach to get the support you need. Don't struggle alone. The link is in the description box below. When I think about where the Detroit Pistons are, and I look at the next three steps for them to take in their progression as a franchise, as a roster, as a team, as an organization, there are three players that come to mind. Ron Holland, Marcus Sasser, and Ausar Thompson. But I want to start at the top with Ausar Thompson because he is probably the most prolific talent on this team. There's something that someone put in the comments recently about point Ausar Thompson. Point Ausar Thompson. And I had to be honest that I did not see this coming. I knew that he had really good facilitation skills. I knew that he was going to be able to be kind of a glue guy, a connector piece, to be able to move the ball around. But I did not see the potential progressive step to make him into a point forward. Essentially, to have him run the point. And this is something that is a pleasant surprise, is another feather in the cap for JB Bickerstaff and their staff for even foreseeing this opportunity, because I don't know if anybody was talking about him running the point before we saw in this last game his potential to do so. I think I have to also point out that I did not perceive how much he had worked on his game potentially being held out because of blood clots. I had to look into it further, and I recognized that they said you're still able to do workouts when you have blood clots. You're just not able to do competitive play, 5-on-5 contact drills, even 3-on-3 contact drills. You're essentially relegated to only individual conditioning and development. And so that becomes something extremely noteworthy that he was able to put in this type of work on his ball handling, on his ability to operate and dribble handoffs and pick and rolls. Because what we saw last game against the Memphis Grizzlies, tell me he did not look incredibly smooth and confident, bringing the ball up after a rebound and getting right into an offensive set, utilizing a pick and roll and navigating that pick and roll, putting his defender in jail, which means coming off of that pick and roll and your defender is trailing behind you, you essentially manipulate your body to stay between your defender who's coming over the top of the screen, chasing behind you, between them and the basket. And so you've essentially locked them out of the play by having them play behind you. So now you're playing 5-on-4 in front of you, forcing that big man who who's defending your big man to either choose between guarding you and stopping you from getting to the rim or guarding Jalen Duren or Isaiah Stewart, in which case you can do a drop-off pass, bounce pass, or a lob for a wide-open shot if they choose you versus them, right? This is a very technical skill that usually point guards spend some time trying to develop, being able to operate in successfully. You see the D'Angelo Russells doing this, Austin Reeves, you see Chris Paul has mastered it, LeBron James, right? Like these consummate point guards who have had to put in work to master this part of the offense. And out of nowhere, Ausar Thompson pops up on day one, coming back from being allowed to play by the NBA, and he's already operating at a full capacity point guard. Look, I know that he's not shooting the ball at the volume that we might like, but the fact that he's still shooting threes and knocking them down, and now he's running the point position, we have to start thinking about him and what does it mean for his outlook and potential on this team. Ausar Thompson may become, I'm going to put it out there now, he may end up being the best player on this team. I get that his shooting is not where Cade and Ivey's is. But if you look at what his potential impact is on the defensive end, and now on the offensive end, with his size and athleticism, his ability to run offense and get guys involved without turning the ball over, without dribbling the ball off his knee and having errant passes, without having all the defense focused on him because you still have Cade and Ivey on the wings. What he is potentially able to do at 6'7" with his physical size and athleticism, it's something that neither Ivey or Cade Cunningham offer. Being 6'7", 220, 225 pounds with a 38-inch vertical. Ivey has the vertical, but he's 6'4", 6'5". Cade Cunningham is 6'6", 6'7", but he's about 210 pounds, 215 pounds, but he's kind of light in the pants. He plays, beneath the rim. Right, even though he can get up, he's not necessarily a high flyer. He's not necessarily somebody who's this physically imposing specimen, I think, yet. That's probably next in his progression, is to get a lot stronger in year, 4, 5. But it's to say, point Ausar Thompson opens up this offense in an incredible way, because now you could put Ivey and Cade on the wings. Now you have both of them coming off of pin downs and cross screen actions, and now he can be the dribble handoff facilitator, run some pick and roll. This offense becomes far more dynamic than what we've even seen in the first quarter of this season. From the first 20 games of this season, what we've been able to see is that this team has a lot of firepower in terms of shooting now with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley, along with Ivey and Cade and Harris and Fontecchio and even Stewart, right? You've got so much shooting to offer. Marcus Sasser, who I'm going to get to later, they are able to really shoot themselves out of slumps and shoot themselves ahead to put teams away. That's how they've been able to win so far offensively, with Cade and Ivey being able to make more spectacular dynamic plays. But now with a point Ausar Thompson, this opens up so many things for this offense, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like today against the Pacers. The second person I want to point out is Marcus Sasser. I think that Marcus Sasser is going to be able to become the Peyton Pritchard. He's going to be able to become that guy off the bench, the Malik Monk, who offers dynamic offense, playmaking, shot making, and facilitation. He's going to be able to become the TJ McConnell of this team. The guy who comes in off the bench and immediately is going to be a 15 to 20 point scoring threat. When I watch him, I keep wanting more. I see him, and every time I see him pass the ball and turn his back to the ball, I get disappointed because I say, I want you to have the ball. I want you to make the decision about who takes the shot. I want to see either you put the ball up or I want to see you play make for somebody else to get a wide open shot. I don't really want to see Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. running pick and rolls or even creating shots for themselves. I want those two guys catching and shooting. I like Ron Holland attacking the basket. I'm going to get to him in a moment. But it's to say that Marcus Sasser probably offers the most consistent and reliable ability to shot create of this bench unit than anybody else. He probably offers the best shot creation, ball handling, and ability to get to the rim and into the teeth of the defense, probably as good as Ivey and Cade, and even now Ausar Thompson. Right? And it's saying a lot because I don't think that that's recognized enough that Marcus Sasser can get a bucket. He can get absolutely wherever he wants on the court with his handle, his herky-jerk type of a style of play, his ability to be tough, physical, to manipulate the defense, manipulate the ball and his defender, his crossovers, his step backs, his shooting with range, his confidence, his finishing ability at the rim or in the mid-range, pull-up floaters. He has the full bag. His bag is probably as complete as Cade Cunningham's, except probably a little bit more decisive. When the bench unit is in, I want Sasser being the fulcrum of the offense. You let Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. and everyone else operate around him. Because when the offense gets bogged down in that second unit, it gets real ugly, especially when you see Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. having to create their own shots. First of all, when they're creating their own shots, they're kind of a black hole. It doesn't go anywhere outside of up to the basket. At least with Marcus Sasser, you know you have some potential for playmaking, for potential pick and roll with Isaiah Stewart, or kickouts to wide open shooters. But that's something I want to see more often. I want him to be the fulcrum. I want him to be the offensive focus in that second unit. The last thing, last but not least, is Ron Holland. Ron Holland, I think some people are getting frustrated with him. Look, let this team take their steps. Let this team take their steps. Ron Holland was a high lottery pick. He's extremely talented. Let him learn. Right now, we're already seeing that he's becoming more and more confident with his three-point shot. And that is a welcomed presence, especially with the trade deadline approaching and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley potentially being off this team sooner than later. Simone Fontecchio as well. Who knows? And so when you look at that aspect, you want to see Ron Holland show that he can shoot the ball and spread the floor and potentially play at a shooting guard position next to Marcus Sasser off the bench. Let's see the range of his potential. I don't think sending him back to the G League is going to show us anything new. I don't think his confidence is being hit by his struggles with the main team. And when I look at his defense, his physicality, his toughness, his tenaciousness, he's a dog out there. He's determined. He gets on the boards. He gets out in transition. He's doing so many things well, even if at times he's struggling with his shot creation and knowing when to go, when to pass, and figuring that out. He's not going to figure that out down in the G League where he's the number one option. He needs to figure that out on this roster where even long term he's still going to have to be aware of where he is on the pecking order behind Ivey and Cade and probably Ausar and Duran and even Sasser. Right? He needs to get used to being a part of a very talented team and not just the team's number one option. He knows how to do that. Now he's learning how to assert himself with other extremely talented guys around him. And so he needs to be with the main team. I think he needs to continue coming off the bench. He needs to continue to play aggressively, even if it means you take some lumps along the way. Why? As I said in the beginning, because you can't skip steps. Don't skip steps. Just like the Houston Rockets are the number 3 seed in the Western Conference right now. Last season, they missed the play-in. And when they thought they were making a push for it, they came up short at the end. And that's okay because it allowed them to experience the difference between what is winning basketball for them and not winning basketball for them. So they were able to go into the offseason and have a clear outlook of what it meant to take the next step this season, and they're doing it. Let this team take their steps, take their lumps, learn along the way. We see they're trending in the right direction. Don't try to speed them up just because we're getting excited. Don't try to speed this process up just because we see potential and opportunity. Don't get ahead of yourself. Take the steps. And the next 3 steps are Ausar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, and Ron Holland Jr. But as always, I want to know what you all think. If you agree, disagree, let me know in the comment section. Definitely, if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Appreciate you if you stayed with me to the end. And definitely drop this video in your group chats. Talk about it and get at me in the comment sections. You know I get back at you there. I'm going to holler at y'all next time. Peace.